Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. It's in the description below. It is your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any Watchbox platform. Please reach out to me directly. Email tmosso@thewatchbox.com for pricing details. Today we're discussing a circa 2021 redesign of the classic Royal Oak Offshore 42. Of course, back in 1993, the 42 was the original version of the bigger, bolder, more modern Royal Oak sports watch designed by then-young Emmanuel Guet and hated by the original Royal Oak designer Gerald Genta. Interesting how the revolutionary becomes the establishment over time. Well, so too has this revolutionary become something of an establishment favorite, as the Royal Oak Offshore is the go-to sports watch for the elite of the haute horlogerie set. Taking a quick look here, you can see 42 millimeters in diameter in stainless steel, 15.2 millimeters thick, and from lug tip to lug tip. The case alone is 53.9 millimeters. If we measure these intermediate lengths of the plot, the total horizontal distance across the wrist is a beefier 58.5 millimeters. And you might wonder, how does a watch so broad wear on a small wrist? Well, my 16 centimeter circumference wrist wears it fine. I will say 15-16 is going to be the lower limit for an offshore. They are big watches, and you can see there's a little bit of a flare and a fight to the strap. You can't pull it straight down out of the lugs, so it wants to straddle your wrist as much as it wants to actually hug. So I'd recommend 15 centimeter circumference wrist, no smaller, to wear this watch. Not as thick as you might think. Now, the watch is still automatic winding, 100 meters water resistant, and a chronograph, but it no longer uses a modular movement, and that benefits the thickness just a little bit. The watch gets thinner. Taking a look at the strap, Audemars Piguet has made the unconventional choice to emboss a fabric or textile-like pattern onto rubber. And make no mistake, this is rubber. It's fixed to the case using screws and bars, which is a solid and upscale way of attaching a strap to the case. No spring bars used here. This is very secure. You can see it thins out as it moves away from the lug profiles. It also tapers as it moves away from the lugs. Although this watch is on a strap, every offshore and Royal Oak that's on a strap is designed with this taper in mind so that the watch looks as integrated on a strap as it does on the traditional bracelet. You can also see this was something new for 2021. You have two little push buttons on the bottom, and those push buttons allow you to instantly and easily release the strap. So you can dress the watch up, put it on a different strap, put it on a bracelet if you wish. It's a quick change system, and it's as simple as a car seatbelt buckle. You just snap it right back in. But if you have tool-free release from the case, then you also need tool-free release on the other end for the buckle. The buckle, as you can see, is a combination of polish and satin that was new for this year, for the 2021 model year. It too has a little methodology for releasing it tool-free from the strap, so you can really swap all of the hardware onto a new strap if you wish. The case, as with all Royal Oaks and Offshores, has been exhaustively detailed and hand-finished. You can see creases, curves, satin polish, and some of the polish is progressive, like the bevel on the flank of the case and the lugs. You see how it expands from the mid-case, and it's symmetrical at all four corners. That's not easy to do by eye-hand coordination. That takes experience. You also can see that we have a reprofiled crown guards, and we have the return of polymer caps and the polymer shoulder to the crown and the pushers. For a while, these were ceramic. Well, AP's gone back to the original look from the 90s. Now we have this matte polymer, and it's a warmer, softer feel underneath the finger. You can also see there's a lot of micro beveling here on the crown guard structures, which is attention to detail at a high level. Taking a look, you can see that the bezel gasket has always been an important physical and sealing element of the Offshore. So it is here to seal, but it's also here as part of the style to make it look big, bold, raw, machine-like. And then we have a satin lip to the bezel, gives way to a large polished rounded edge. And then across the top, it is vertical satination. These hexagonal bolts, and they are bolts because this is an Offshore, they're made of steel. Now, the bezel is a rounded octagon because the original Royal Oak in 1972, designed by Genta, was inspired by a vintage diving helmet that looked roughly like this bezel. Inboard, a lovely forest green, AP bucking the trend of Kelly greens and metallic greens on all the watches of 2000 and 2021. You can see here that we have the Mega Tapisserie, the large hobnail, with a lovely forest green, and we have a tachymeter outboard with a metallic green. The tachymeter can be used in conjunction with the flyback chronograph. That's right, reset and restart without first stopping. You can use the two things, tachymeter and chrono, to gauge the speed of an object such as a race car across a kilometer. Now, what used to be the hallmark of a counterfeit offshore is now standard equipment from the factory. See how the date is flush with the dial? This is now an in-house integrated chronograph, the 4404. And so rather than having a chronograph module on top of a base with the base mounting the date and thus viewed through a tunnel, we now have a movement that puts the chronograph and the date almost in the same plane. So the date underneath its little magnifier is now a lot closer to the dial because we're not staring down at it past the chronograph module. Of course, we've got plenty of luminescence. Let's take a quick look. No problems there. Applied and polished numerals. We also have baton-style hands, another nod to the original offshore, and a polished AP logo, all of that in white gold. We have hacking seconds, so you can stop the watch and set it against a reference time. We also have, for that newly flush date, a quick set mechanism. And look at the attention to detail. AP uses the same font all the way around the dial. You can see the numeral 2, the 2 on the sub-registers, the 2 on the date wheel, and the 2 on the tachymeter. They're all the same font. A lot of watchmakers make a mistake with that. They get it wrong. Now, flipping the watch over, we can see that new in-house chronograph of which I spoke. This bowed back in 2019 on the code 1159, so you can see it's a bigger movement. It's better filling the case back than the old 26mm 3126 base that powered the old offshore chronographs. This is well over 30 millimeters in diameter. You can see it features a black polished column wheel for crisp action that you can feel and hear. Let's listen. It's a very crisp and satisfying column wheel. It also incorporates a vertical clutch, so when you start it up, there's no extraneous motion or jump to the seconds hand. And if you wish, you can leave it running full time with no additional wear and tear to the movement. That's an advantage of a vertical clutch. 40-jewel movement, as you can see, nicely decorated. And it actually features one of the few visible vertical clutches I've ever encountered in the business. Take a look at the structure adjacent to the balance. You can actually see the vertical clutch engaging and disengaging. It's very subtle, but it's there. Now, the watch includes a full balance bridge and a free-sprung Gyromax style balance, so it can be adjusted very precisely, but it's also very shock tolerant. And unlike the old base movement, which beat away at 3 Hertz, this is 4 Hertz, which makes it more appropriate in a watch that's going to sustain vibration, shock, and concussion. The finishing is attractive across the board, with both blued and polished screws, Côte de Genève, mostly mechanical but handsome beveling, as well as satination and engine turning. It's a good-looking movement that is price appropriate in terms of how it is finished. And then we also have ceramic bearings for the rotor to make it more efficient in winding, and a 3-day power reserve to give it long legs. Reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details.